Hi guys, this is the video for 8.2. We're doing the volume of a cones. And I wrote really big plug and chug because remember if you watched 8.1, all we're doing is a lot of just plugging numbers into an equation and chugging them out and getting the answer that we need. 8.1 we did volume of cylinders. Okay, two-dimensionally I tried to do an example of why these formulas are what they are. But we did volume is pi r squared h for a cylinder. Okay, and the cone's volume relates directly to that by if you took a cylinder and you imagine cutting it into 3 parts, one of those parts would still be a cone like this. So if that volume refers to and refers back to a cylinder, there would be the pi r squared h that we had, but it would only be a third of it, or as I like to say, it'd be pi r squared h. When you get that, you divide it by 3. If you need a little bit more visual of it, I made a cylinder out of paper, and to show you that it's out of, it's going to kind of become a cone when you put it into 3 pieces. If you take a cylinder and it's nice and easy with a piece of paper, you can't really take an actual cylinder and do this obviously. But if I took a cylinder and I roughly cut it into 3 pieces, if you use your imagination a little bit, what's left would be, if I can pop this open, what's left would be the cone that stands in the very middle of it. Okay, a real rough visual representation, but hopefully you can kind of see how they get the formula for a cone by doing it that way. So I have chosen 7 problems from your work that you should be able to get to in classroom, the worksheets that are provided for you. And we're going to go through those 7 kind of step by step and see how it works out. From the reteach, I'm doing numbers 2 and 3. Okay, number 2 has an upside down-ish cone, looks something like this, where they give you a radius, they tell you that this is your height is 20, and that radius is 17. Okay, those are the given information, which is everything that we need. We would then say, okay, we've got this formula that I said is pi r squared h, and when we do it, we're going to divide it by 3. Well, pi is always 3.14. Our radius they give us, I'm going to write it kind of, I'll write it right here. Our radius they give us is 17. So we don't want just the radius, we want the radius squared. Okay, well, 17 squared, and again you're going to want to use your calculator a lot on these, but 17 squared is 289. Okay, 17 times 17 is 289. Okay, we know our h equals, they give it to us as 20. And that's all the information we need to plug into this formula, where I say pi 3.14 times r squared, which is 289, times the height, which is 20. That's the first part that we're going to divide by 3 when we're done. Well, when you use your calculator and do all this mess up here, it equals 18,149.2. So when you do that and you divide that by 3, your rough answer, so that my squiggly equal sign, is going to be 6,050. And I'll say again on this first problem that right away you'll notice that the answer sheets that I gave you, it says 6,052.8 on your answer sheet that you'll have available to you. It's only because for pi, instead of 3.14, they use more digits into this, but I guarantee you as you're using pi throughout your math, almost 99% of the time, if not more, you're going to be using pi as 3.14. So don't worry about it being 1 or 2 points off. You're in the right direction if you're right there. Like I said, my answer is 2 off. They said 6,052, and that's okay. It'll be okay to have it that far off. Okay, just don't be way off, forgetting to square your r, forgetting to divide by 3, those types of things. The other one I'm doing on reteach is number 3. Reteach number 3 has a cone that looks something like this. Okay, now they tell us all the way across on this one, that's a big thing, is 7. We still know our height is 4 on this guy. But now, if the diameter equals 7, then our radius must be half that, which is 3.5, right? So, r squared is if you do 3.5 times 3.5. Well, 3.5 times 3.5 is 12.25. And again, you can check me with your calculator. So I now have every bit of information if I plug it into this formula. Pi is 3.14. R squared is 12.25. My height is only 4. And we're going to divide all that guy by 3 to get our volume. Well, when you divide or multiply all these guys together, you get 153.86. And when you divide that by 3, your rough answer should be something close to 51.3. Okay, that's all I'm going to do for the reteach page. You will have some of the reteach problems on your homework that I will put on Classroom. Let's go on to the skills practice page. And on the skills practice page, I'm just doing numbers 1 and 2. So let's look at those. Number 1 has a upside down cone. Looks something like this. Okay. They give you that the radius equals 2. So my radius squared equals 4. They give us that the height is 7. So obviously we say our height is 7, and we know our pi, we're always using 3.14 for pi. So our formula, we just plug in what we know. We know that pi is 3.14. We know that r squared is 4. And we know that h is 7. And when we get that, we're going to divide it all by 3, because that's what the formula says to do. When you multiply all these guys together on the top, you get 87.92. Bless you. We are going to divide that by 3, and you'll get a rough answer of 29.3. Okay? That's number 1 on the skills practice. We're going to do number 2 on the skills practice, and we'll move right into the homework page after that. We'll keep this lesson short and simple. As far as all you got to remember how to do is to plug and chug, right? If I have number 2 on the skills practice, it's another cone that kind of tilts to the side, and they give us the diameter all the way across. So the diameter all the way across is 10, which is always a nice number to use. They tell us that the height of this guy from here to here, is 9. So we say, okay, if the diameter is 10, then our r equals 5. So r squared equals 5 times 5 is 25, right? And we know our height equals 9. And of course, pi equals 3.14. So we fill in our formula, plug and chug. We know that pi is 3.14. We know that our r squared is 25. We know that our height is 9. And when we find all that, we're going to divide it by 3. When you do this mess of multiplication, you're going to get 706.5 if you do it right. And then we're going to divide that by 3. If you take 706 and you divide it by 3, you'll get 235.5. Okay, and that's all I'm going to do for you on your skills practice. So right away, getting to your last page of your homework, we're going to do 3 problems on your last page. We're doing number 1, which is an upside down cone. Looks just like this. This is number 1, by the way. Upside down cone. They tell us from here to here is 2. That right away is our radius equals 2. So radius squared would be 2 times 2, which would be 4. They tell us this distance here is 5. So that is our height. And then we know, of course, that pi is 3.14, always, always. Okay, so we fill in our formula. Pi, 3.14, times the radius squared. Well, we know our radius squared is 4, times the height is 5. And we're going to divide all that by 3 when we do it. If you use your calculator, you plug those in, you multiply that out. The top part of that is going to be 62.8. And we're going to divide that by 3, remember. And when you divide that by 3, you're going to get roughly 20.9 for your volume. Let's move on to number 3. Remember, you can pause this at any time to catch up with me if you need to check on your calculator what I did. If you need to catch up to where I got my measurements, do that so that you don't always get behind me and say, oh wait, I didn't do so hot on that one. Just check your work. Use my video to help you. Use the answer keys to walk you through it and make sure you did it right. Number 3 on the homework page has a much larger cone than any of the ones that we've dealt with so far. Okay, looks something like that. And they tell us a whole distance from here to here is 15. They tell us this distance from here to here, that height is 10. So we have to do a little figuring. They tell us the diameter equals 15. So my radius is half of 15, which is 7.5, right? Then so radius squared, if you put 7.5 into your calculator, 7.5 squared is 56.25. Okay? So you have to do all that to figure out just what your radius and your radius squared is. But then you know that your height is 10. It's a nice number to work with. Oops, I put pi, didn't I? Your height is 10, and pi equals 3.14. And I plug and chug. I say, okay, pi, let's write in a 3.14 right away. We'll say 3.14 times my r squared, which we found out to be 56.25, times my height is 10, and we're going to divide all that by 3. When you multiply all those guys out, you get 1,766.25, and we're going to divide that by 3. Well, 1,766.25, if you type that into your calculator and divide it by 3, you're going to get roughly 588.75. Okay, now up until now, all of these have been very much the same as far as doing everything the same and just changing numbers to find out what the new volume would be. I'm going to do number 11 for you. The most challenging problems on any of these are the last couple, which is obviously something that you should kind of expect, that they would kind of get harder as you go. Number 11 changes the bits of information that you know. And just because we definitely need to know it, I'm going to put the V here. Remember, we were always finding volume. The volume is this formula that we were using. And that's important because on number 11, it gives you your volume right away. The V is 36. And it also tells you your H your height is 9. Okay, but what we don't know, of course we know that pi is 3.14. What we don't know this time is what our radius is. And so we wouldn't know what radius squared is either. Okay, so we have to plug our formula in this way. We still can just plug and chug away and find this out. You're just going to have to use what you know about equations to solve it. If v is 36, we would plug this formula in as 36 equals pi, we should know, is 3.14. We don't know the r squared. And we know our h is 9. Oops. We know our h is 9. Okay, this is still all going to be divisible by 3. Okay, so this is our formula. We know pi, we don't know r squared, we know our height, and we know we've got to divide this by 3, and our answer should become this guy. Now, I didn't do any calculator work on this one, so we're going to do some of this together. I know that multiplication is nice enough to say that I can do these in any order I want. Okay, and actually before I would even do that, my best suggestion is I'm going to change colors. See this nice little fraction of having this 3 down here? If we're solving equations, we want to get rid of that. So if I multiply this whole guy by a 3, remember that's going to get rid of that 3, but we have to remember that we'll have to do it on this side as well. Okay, so now over here, what we're left with is just the equals 3.14 times r squared times 9. No more dividing by 3 because we got rid of it, but we have to know what 36 times 3 is. Well, 36 times 3 is 108, if I didn't make any mistakes in my head. Yes, it's 108. Okay, now we can get back to what I was talking about what order we might want to do these in. If I do 3.14 times 9, okay, and like I said, I didn't do a calculator on these ones, which is okay. I can show you what we're doing. 9 times 4 is 36. Carry 3. 9 plus 3 is 12. Carry 1. 27 plus 1 is 28. We have 2 decimal places, and so 3.14 times 9 is 28.26. Okay? That times r squared is going to give us 108. Right? So now to get rid of this 28.26, we would have to divide by 28.26. And I'm going to ask my handy dandy Ryan boy in classroom to hurry up and put in 108 divided by 28.26 into his calculator. 108. Okay. Divided by 28.26.
3.8.
3.8?
Yeah.
Okay, so if 108 divided by 28.26 is 3.8, then r would have to be the square root of 3.8, right? And what's the square root of 3.8?
1 sec.
It's got to be 1.9-ish.
Yeah, 1.9.
Okay, and that's your objective on number 11, is to find the area of the base of each cone. And so if I know my r is 1.9, and if they want area of the base, area equals pi r squared. So we take pi, boy in class, hang on and do this. R squared is 1.9 squared. 1.9 squared is what, 3.8? Or no, 1.9 squared is what?
3.6.
3.6. And now do 3.6 times 3.14.
11.3.
11.3, which is darn close to the 12 that they put on your answer sheet. So we know we did okay. They just probably used, again, something different for 3.14, but that's okay. Sorry about the little intermission there. I had to find a calculator, but I knew that this was going to be kind of time consuming, and I didn't want to waste that much time for you. Okay, that does it for 8.2. Make sure you concentrate on getting those worksheets completed before you head on to the Google Classroom and get the assignment going. This shouldn't really take you all that terribly long. It's just a lot of plugging and chugging into a calculator. And I'll get you 8.3's video real soon because it's a lot of the same. Hey, take care till next time.